Today we're going to continue our Indigenous Learning Time with the question of what should we call Indigenous people? For a long time, people called them Indians, and this term has fallen out of favor in recent years, and for good reason. The term Indian comes from Christopher Columbus. When he came across in his 3 ships, he was hoping to find India. So when he encountered people who were already living here, down in Central America, he just referred to them as Indians, and he told everybody back in Europe he had found Indians. But that was always incorrect. So even though it has been ensconced in many of our legislations, such as the Indian Act and the original 1867 Constitution, in our day and time, people are saying it's time to give this word, which was never right, a rest. So people have been looking for other terms that can be used to speak of the people who were here before settlers arrived. One word which has been popular for a long time is Aboriginal. Aboriginal has at least part of it right. The word original's in it, which is great. But the problem is with that first 2 letters, the ab. If you think about words in English which start with ab, they usually mean something which is not, or is a deviation from. So abnormal means something that is not normal. So Aboriginal literally means not original. So this term too has fallen out of favor because it's actually saying the opposite of what we want to say. Nonetheless, you will still find in some articles as well as in general conversation, people use the word Aboriginal, but really it should be phased out. So the next word which is around is, of course, Native. We call people who lived here before the settlers natives. There's nothing wrong with that term. Native does mean someone who lives in a particular place and calls it home. The issue is that it's just not very specific. You know, when we sing our national anthem, we sing of our home and native land. Nobody's saying our home and the natives' land. That's not what we mean. We mean everybody's home and native land who lives in Canada. So native is okay, it's just that it's too general, because it can refer to someone saying, I'm a native of North Toronto, or I'm a native of Italy. It just means someone who calls a place home. So it's just not specific enough to refer to people like the Métis and the Inuit and all the various 50 nations of Indigenous tribes who live here. So that leads us to our last word, Indigenous. This is the one which has been become most common and approved in the last few decades. And one of the reasons why the word Indigenous has sort of risen to the surface is that in the 1990s, Indigenous people from all over the world started to organize and meet and talk about we should get the UN to guarantee our rights. And so the United Nations has developed an Indigenous Bill of Rights, as it were, and Canada has signed on to this. And so the word Indigenous has become the term which is used for everyone who was here before settlers arrived. So that includes the Inuit, and of course it also includes the Dene and the Cree and all the other 50 nations who were here before settlers came to Canada. So that's a little primer on how we can have a conversation about Indigenous issues by avoiding some of the other words. And I'll be talking about other terms in the weeks to come. But for now, let's leave it there and be happy that we have Indigenous people here to teach us ways about living in Canada that we still need to catch up with.